Hello and welcome to this episode of Pause with Nandini on NRI Affairs. And I am joining from the unceded lands of the Yagera and Turrbal people. I'm in Brisbane and I welcome you all to the show. I'm here with a very special duo of ladies who represent the Aunties Fund. And we're going to have a chat about what the fund is, what they're raising these funds for, and who the people are behind it. And of course, how all of us can get involved. Welcome to the show, Sneha and Runjhun.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Absolutely great to have you. I'll begin with you, Sneha. If you'd like to give me a little background of who you are and why you are an auntie in this fund.
Thank you for that. I'm Sneha. I was born and raised in India. I came here about 5 years ago as a student, and I feel like DV is something that people actively experience but don't talk about often. So it's something that's constantly being processed in the back of our heads, but we're not able to be like, okay, this is actually not good. And you see it around you all the time, at least for me. And I've volunteered during my entirety of high school at a rehab center for people, for women especially, who have been fleeing homelessness, DV, and for women who've also been psychosocially affected. So these are like extreme cases of DV. But over there, there's not enough support, or it's very scattered. The support is very scattered in terms of budgets, and it's not very structured like how it is here that I see. And over here, I've volunteered at Women's Shed, which is more like a community sort of place for older ladies. So, and I met one of the aunties there who came in for a Women's Day event, which was Hindu, and she floated this idea last year, and I was like, yeah, I'm in, even though I didn't understand the extent of the work that we'd be doing, which I'm still learning about, but it's been a great learning journey, and yeah, very confronting at times, but it's lovely.
Of course. Thank you for that. Just to clarify those, for those who may not be clear, DV stands for domestic violence, also stands for family violence in Australia, right? Because often these terms are kind of used interchangeably. And the idea of the Aunties Fund is that they're raising funds for organizations that work in this space, right?
Yeah.
Well, Runjhun, if you would like to expand on that and also tell us how you came to this.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So glad to be here and talking to you. I'm Runjhun. I was raised in a small town in central India. Its name is Sagar. Most people don't even know. And I had the privilege of growing up in a family where there was no difference. Gender did not play a role into what you could do. My parents were very progressive and liberal in their ideas. But throughout my life, because of the society, the social systems that we live in, gender kept propping up. And even though I've now lived in, I think, 8 or 9 cities across 5 countries, gender keeps coming up, from the kind of education path that I would choose as a young girl, to where I would like to work, or where can I go or not go. Gender kept propping up, and I was a very angry teenager, and I felt like this is not fair, or it just did not make sense to me ever. And I feel domestic violence is at the helm of gender based discrepancy in our society. It's at the top of the unfairness that our society has sort of propped up. So I came to Sydney in Australia last year with my family, and I met Indu from a friend's reference as something they were trying to put together a campaign, a digital campaign, and we just came together, and I was discussing that. And as we were discussing, she floated the idea, would you like to actually join the collective? And I jumped at it. I was like, I literally said, I do. Because
Adding
it
to the
just,
cause.
yeah, because it was just in so much in alignment with how I've always felt as a person. It gives me a chance to put my skills to work for something that's so purpose driven and something that I believe in completely. So that's how I became part of Aunties.
Thank you for that. And just thinking of what you said about it being sort of at the apex of societal issues, the irony is that it is also one of the things that is least probably talked about openly, right?
Yeah.
So, just to think about, what does the data tell you? Do you have any data that you can share about the prevalence of domestic violence in Australia? And if there are certain sort of, I don't know, like points of data that point to in the South Asian community or in the Indian community, is there any sort of data that you have around that? Either for now or you could share it later.
The one data that we're constantly being fed with is that 1 in 3 migrant women experience domestic violence, and that's been quoted in the latest research that was put out, the latest statistic that was put out last year from 2022 to 2024. And the overall generic one would be 1 in 4 women experience domestic and family violence. So, but one of the things that we've found is there's no South Asian specific data, because I don't know if they are underreported or under researched, but there's no South Asian specific data to do in Australia or in any other country, except for one paper that I read a long time ago in the US. But that was to do with other migrant communities. They just put in all multicultural communities into one like blanket
Yes.
data variable. So yeah, but I feel like that's the extent of research right now in terms of statistics. What we're aware of, if there's anything more that you've been exposed to, feel free to share.
Very interesting to me because, the fact that there is no data on that sort of also indicates the extent of the invisibilization of the problem itself. That,
Yeah.
it's not even thought of as something that needs to be looked at with a more nuanced lens. So I think there is great opportunity there, because it's almost like, how do you address what you can't see, right? And how do you address what you don't know the extent of? So
Yeah.
that's obviously, if there are data scientists, if there are academics who are listening to this, there is absolutely opportunity there. Unfortunately, I mean, this isn't something that I would really, want to come out as an opportunity, but there is something that can inform then all the work that needs to be done. If you could tell us a little bit about the organizations that this fund is looking to support and some of the mechanics of that, because I know you're raising $100,000 to support 4 organizations. Is that like an even spread between them? Is that a staggered sort of allocation? What is that whole funding picture look like?
So I'll talk about the 4 organizations first and the rationale behind choosing these organizations, because the focus was on finding organizations that are working specifically with South Asian victims
Right.
of domestic and family violence. So all these 4 are very established. In fact, they are more than 10 years old. Some of them are 20, 25 years old, been active since 25 years. So these are very established organizations working with South Asian women, and most of them are are run by South Asian women. So it was both ways,
Yes.
that because the idea was to find organizations that would be culturally informed in helping South Asians, domestic violence victims. So these 4 organizations are ICSA, which stands for Indian Subcontinent Crisis and Support Agency. There's Harman Foundation, House of Sakinah, and the fourth is Speakout.
Mhm.
Um, and all of these organizations work at different levels of the entire system of, or sort of, you can say, the cycle of help that is required for a victim. They have different interventions. Some of them work also in early intervention. They would work on campaigns and awareness building programs, but they would also work in crisis support. So if
Okay.
they would have, say, 24/7 helpline. Some of them provide crisis accommodation. So if a woman has nowhere else to go, they would give short term and medium term accommodation for them to just, time to get them on their feet back. They would help counseling, which is a big part of, I think, all the organizations provide is counseling. They would provide recruitment support. So many of them have to
Yeah.
find ways to fend for themselves.
Yeah.
So whether it's language related help, help with putting your resume together, getting them connected to the industry, they would give all. So the entire sort of the value, I mean, I use the word value chain, but there's an entire chain of events that,
Basically, the
yeah,
ecosystem. The
the
ecosystem.
entire system.
Mhm. You spoke about culturally informed.
Mhm.
And culturally informed is such a key component of this work uh, because there are so many barriers, right? That
Yeah.
are culture specific. Um, I know you're not particularly yourselves experts in domestic violence. So, I would like to caution our audience that none of us are coming here with expert sort of solutions in that space, which needs a very specialized kind of training and work. But nonetheless, because you're working so closely with these organizations, what are some of the barriers that you have encountered in one for victims of domestic violence to be seeking help? And two, what are some of the nuances that culturally informed solutions would provide? If you'd like to cite some examples.
I can go for the barriers that they face in
Yeah.
terms of seeking support. From the accounts that the service providers have given, it's been mostly based on the financial dependence that women have on their significant others. When some like marriage issues to do with finance and immigration threats. So threats around the visa status and being like coercive control over immigration itself and visa issues. So people also are sometimes uneducated about the processes. So some people there have been cases where, because of a marriage, someone has been put into a new country. They're being brought in with no support or no family, and the only person and the only social circles that they're aware of and they know of is of their spouse. So they only know their, in this case, the husband mostly,
Yes.
the husband's friends, their family, so the mother-in-law. And the problem with that is you're only introduced to that part of the thing. And if the whole community that you're exposed to is the way that your partner is, and if your partner is an abuser themselves, then you're going to be, I feel like that's just getting you deeper into the cycle of abuse, and it might feel helpless to get out of it unless someone is like, hey, this is not right. But it's so hard to go seeking for that sort of knowledge and information when you know nobody.
I wanted to add to what Sneha just mentioned quite rightly. So you can actually divide the barriers both in, like, tangible things that the victims worry about, and then the mental aspect of it. So the tangible thing, as she said, there is a great amount of financial dependence. They've just come into a new country. They're isolated. They are financially dependent on their spouse and their family. They also don't have the visa requirements. So if they plan to move away from their family, they don't know how are they going to survive in this new country. So, and then because of the kind of spouse visas or the temporary visas they come in, the system unfortunately also doesn't support such people. So these women are the kind that'll just, they go they fall off in the crack in that system where there is no legal aid for them, there are
Yes,
no Centrelink payments for them. So tangibly, they are not as supported as, say, another DV victim might be from a community who's a citizen or a PR.
right.
Mentally, there is a great amount of, I mean, our culture teaches us that how can you break a family, how can you, like, the conditioning that these women come with, that you have to endure, how can you leave,
Adjust.
yeah, adjust, compromise. That's the synonym to marriage almost in our cultures.
Yes,
So
yes.
there's deep shame in, going around, and a lot of them fear that if I do something, if I take a step, something even more drastic could happen. What if they, um, arrest my husband? What if they arrest me? What if my children are taken away from me? So they don't have that information because they are so isolated. And culturally informed services understand the entire gamut of these
Mm-hmm.
problems, and not just like a mainstream, where a mainstream service might say that, why are you letting your family interfere in your matters? It's between you and your husband, don't listen to them. Whereas a culturally informed person would never say something like that. you know they would in fact, they would not even judge if a victim says that I don't want to break my marriage. They will
Yes,
meet them where they are in their own journey, you know.
yes. So
So that's
important.
that's that's what, we've heard these service providers so many times. And to me, the one word that comes keeps coming at the center is, they operate with incredible amount of empathy towards these women, that
Wonderful.
their culture doesn't allow them to take certain actions, and they understand it and they help them where they are.
So important. I mean, this is such a thought provoking conversation, and I'm so glad both of you came on to talk about this. One of the things that you spoke about is how isolated they are and how isolated they feel. And there are two tracks to this. One is that all communication from government is funneling to them through their spouse, right? So through their spouse's visa, through their spouse's Centrelink, through their spouse's
Yeah,
communication, right? So that might be a space of advocacy where these women have direct sort of access, and it's both ways. They are also being communicated with directly and
right.
independently and confidentially. Now, what the
Yeah.
mechanisms of that are, probably are beyond the scope of this conversation, but that's definitely an area that's a gap. The second is about community, right?
Yeah,
Why are these people isolated? Why are these women isolated? What is it that we as community and community members and community leaders, even, what can we do to notice and to understand and to embrace people in our communities? So when there is this situation, they have someone to go to, even if that person is not their friend, but they have
yeah.
someone to go to. Any thoughts on that, Sneha and Runjhun?
I wish, and this is something that, in every interaction with the service providers, one of the questions I ask them, what is the one thing that you wish? And all of them pretty much said the same thing. I wished we judged less. We
Mm,
judged women. We didn't look at women who choose to step aside as home breakers. We don't look at women, single moms, or single parents, as people who cannot be assimilated into our communities. So as a community, I feel like we have to judge this, which is something that's so deeply
mm,
ingrained.
mm.
And uh, I don't I don't think it's a magic wand solution can really
Yes,
do anything about it. But there's just a lot of conversation, a lot of even what we're doing right now or with Aunties Fund. It's not just about raising money, it's about raising conversation, it's about
yes,
raising the change from within. The more we talk about it, the more this problem will, it'll not feel like this, oh my god, what are we talking about, like, in Hindi we say hawa, like,
how
how can
fun.
we, how can we speak about this, or this is not our culture. uh, Family is such a central, unit in our culture.
Mm,
Everything depends on it. Our culture depends on it. Breaking that unit feels like blasphemous. And I
mm,
feel like more and more we have to accept that families can be of many, many types, and just one template of two people together for till death does them apart may not be the
mm.
only way of being. So I wish that we judged less as a community.
So interesting. And this judgment also extends to organizations that are trying to help. Because when an organization comes in to help, they are viewed as people who want to break up marriages. They're
Yeah.
viewed as people who are interfering. They're viewed as a bunch of, embittered, unhappy women who can't
Yeah.
see a married woman in her wedded bliss. There's so many undertones of cultural judgment and stereotyping in this whole conversation that it's no wonder that women hesitate so much to voice their own challenges. Speaking of this, I mean, the big elephant in the room is men, right? In this conversation. Where are the men? Where is the uncle's fund? Don't we need an uncle's fund? Right? So Auntie's
Yeah.
Fund can be about, music and dance and singing and celebration. And the Uncle's Fund can fund the education of men to understand this issue and educate themselves. Your thoughts?
I think men are like historically they have been the perpetrators of domestic violence mostly, and intervention it's kind of nuanced in the way where it's easy. It's I feel like there's more stigma for men to seek support and break through the barrier of, hey, this is what I'm doing wrong, or to even acknowledge that something they're doing is hurting, especially if the environment around them has enabled them to do it for
Yeah.
so long, especially their own internal familial structures. And it's such like deeply seated like systemic conditioning that has led them to live a life for so long. And once you've lived 30, 40 years like that, it's so hard to break it down, and you don't want to, you just feel comfortable in that sort of
Yes.
space doing the same habits. So I feel like it's more nuanced in terms of getting men to talk about it. But now with the younger generations, I'm seeing, at least in current Australian society, people, younger men being more involved in consent education and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it's really inspiring and lovely to see. And yeah, I feel like there's hope for the future. But
Wonderful.
with the current generations, yeah.
Yes.
I think my perspective on this after being involved with the aunties has evolved a little bit. Especially hearing from the service providers, and we've asked similar questions to them, and they've always voiced a perspective that, see, this is a systemic issue where men and women both are victims.
Mm.
Imagine a system which has created, which has validated this person for all the wrong choices this person is making. Something, you're also damaging the men of the society, right? It's
Yes, of course.
creating victims out of the women and abusers out of the men. So it's a systemic issues. And one of the aunties, Harinder auntie of Harman Foundation, put it so nice that I don't look at them as the villains in this whole thing. I look at them with a lot of empathy, who also need help. So
How
all
wonderful.
of yeah, so they also, the service providers also come from a point of view that, even the other point that you made, that so many times these service providers are seen as people who are going to break this house. I love the fact that they come with language that we want to save the marriage. We want to save this, household. We don't want, can we do early intervention at a place where
Mm.
we can counsel both the man and the woman and
Yes.
really make this work for them?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
was a fantastic perspective that I got through this journey of Aunties Fund itself.
No, it is true. And when you say they're both victims and abusers both need help, right? The other elephant, hey, there's another elephant in the room, is that, there are so many women who are the foot soldiers of
Yeah.
violence against women, right? Either by their, participation or by their silence, right?
Mm.
Or by the enabling of structures that allows this to perpetuate. For instance, it could be the victim's own mother, it could be a mother-in-law, it could be a sister saying, I went through it, it's all right, it'll set,
Yeah.
you'll have your child, it'll be fine, or try and speak to them, they were in a bad mood. All of these things that women do to kind of keep the status quo. What has been some of the maybe learnings or sort of interventions that you've come across that are useful in sort of really addressing that and breaking that down? I mean, I do not subscribe at all to this thing that people say women are women's worst enemy. I think that's absolutely not true. And I think we
Yeah.
need, as women, really come out strongly against that narrative. That said, yes, I mean, women are human beings. So women come in all
Yeah.
shades and all colors, and they're not only devis and they're not only like demons,
I
We've got,
feel like that was kind of the incentive behind calling ourselves the Aunties Fund as well, kind of to connect with that and connect and kind of redefine the stereotype of what an auntie means, especially in our cultures, because it's usually tied with gossip and, just
Yeah.
interference.
yeah. And so, and we were like, well, we don't want, we're not that type of aunties. And we all had stories of like really lovely aunties in our life as well. So we were fortunate in that sense. And we wanted to kind of bring that out and just have that sort of intonation and association with the fund itself to
Yeah.
make it more homely and accepting and like a safe space.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I'm glad you brought that up because I did think I would ask you at the end about the name, but I'm glad it's come out now. So, yes, I mean, what are your thoughts about women and breaking some of those? Because I would imagine if you want to keep a structure in place, one, it serves you in some way. And two, there's probably a space of fear because you don't know what a, a life without that structure could look like. As we are saying that men, need early intervention, and
Yeah.
you're going to talk to these service providers cover that whole gamut of the ecosystem. What about the women who are enablers, either by their silence or by their active participation? What are your thoughts in the work needed in that space? And how do we as women continue this conversation where we speak truthfully about those things?
So I think tangibly, one of the things that I know that some of these service providers do is not just counsel the victim, but also counsel families. So family counseling
Hmm.
becomes a very tangible service that they provide because they know that they will help this victim and she will again become powerless in a system where she goes back and all the problems of will just come right back at her. So tangibly, I think I know that that happens, but as a society, as a community, again, it goes back to raising more conversation about this, questioning the norms that has been set, the idea of the mother-in-law, the idea of the sister-in-law, the idea of the auntie, which we are, I think, trying to subvert in some ways through our name itself. I think these ideas have to be questioned constantly, that why does it have to be the way we've been fed. I think a lot of popular culture has also been part of it, the movies that we've seen, the shows that people continue to see unfortunately on TV, on
Yeah,
South Asian TV. It's sort of perpetrated, it propagates it, right? That yeah, this is how it's going to be.
of
So
course. And
yeah.
films, of course, like what was that one? Kabir Singh, was it?
Oh my god.
Yeah, oh, I hated that
Eh,
movie, and
So,
I was so shocked.
and then that film that came out later called Thappad, which is a slap. right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And those fostered a lot of conversation online that I saw around how much is acceptable. Is there an acceptable line? Is it one slap? Is it a
yes,
complete situation? So all of these things I think need to be interrogated in far more clarity than
yeah,
that. At least growing up, we did not have conversations around those things.
I
yes. But
feel
I
like
mean, but here we are. We are,
Yes.
even though we did not grow up on movies, that some of the movies like Thappad that are coming right now, but we found our way to have these conversation and question. I think more of us, if we are brave enough in that social setting where someone cracks a sexist joke and we call it out, I
Yeah.
think that at an individual level itself will, you know, at least start some change. Like, be comfortable with calling out something that's not right, at least in our own personal spaces.
yeah, I think, yeah, I agree 100%. And it takes a certain level of courage to be vulnerable about your own experience as well and talking about it freely. And I feel like being open about being vulnerable helps a lot of people with visibility. And I feel like through personal experience, I tend to art for visibility, and I feel most seen through things like film, art, and media. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of the things that I notice, right? Like when I watch Bollywood or Tamil films or Hindi films, the topics are very, I feel like they're very base level, and in a sense where the overall theme enables these stereotypes. And
Mm,
then I feel like it also ties down to, the collectivism society that countries like India are, and the individualist society these Western
mhm.
countries are mostly. And that's also a bit of that cultural paradigms that I see through film and art. And yeah, visibility, I think, has been very good in terms of feeling
Yeah.
seen.
Yes, gosh, this we could speak about this all day long, couldn't we?
Yes.
When you go into art and culture, then it opens up another new world. But speaking of this fund, and I'd like to draw the conversation back to the effort, which I think is remarkable. Like putting a stake in the ground and saying we are going to raise 100,000 for these organizations. I just love it. I think it's such a great positive sort of assertion, almost, right? And the belief that we can do it. And I'm so glad that the Aunties Fund came about. Talk to me. I know you had a kickoff event. Talk to me about some of the things that you're planning. I know you're doing a great job with lots of social media talking about the Aunties Fund. What are some of the things planned to raise that money, and how can people get involved?
I think we had a fantastic event. And one of the things that we want to do is uh, our mission statement always read that it's not just about raising money, but it's also about raising conversation. The method, the means that we use towards raising this fund matters. So it's not just about going to five corporate donors who would give $10,000 each and we'll be done very quickly. It's about getting the $10, the $20 donor involved, because that
Mhm.
will raise conversation, that will raise change from within the community. So that's a tall ask, and where we see this as a marathon. And one of the things through the event we want to do now is do more and more of these events which feel personal, intimate. We want to go from mini networks of women in South Asian women, where we will always host it in somebody's home, somebody's backyard, where four or five women call their friends, set of friends, and we're just, even if we are just 30, 40 of us, but we're able to have a meaningful conversation and do something purposeful through that event. So, our idea, our plan is to do more of these events and collaborate with more like-minded partners and do more events with them as well. On the social front, we want to keep raising awareness. I think social media is an effective way to get people in.
Yes.
So the simplest thing, that if someone finds us, the simplest thing would be they can follow us. They can read up about us on our webpage. There's also a link to um, a volunteer form that they can fill if they have certain skills that they would like to volunteer with, if they
Sure.
want to help us with one of the events, if they want to become a host of an event, fantastic. So those are some of the things that they could
And
probably.
is there a very easy donation link as well?
Yes,
Where will
yes.
people find it? Is it in your bio? Is it on a website? Where is your donation link?
It's in the bio
Oh,
on our socials, all our
okay.
socials. Yeah.
Wonderful. I know Hindus for Human Rights, which is an organization which started in the US and is also in the UK and in Australia, has come on as a
Yes.
partner. Are there any other organizations that have sort of come on as allies or you're having conversations with that you could share?
Yeah. Yeah, we've always had about 10 media and community partners that have been allies since the get-go, and a few that
Let's
have
yeah.
joined later. Yeah. So there's been Stuck in Between and Indian Mums Connect, which is a really large Facebook group. The Indian Welfare Association, Hindus for Human Rights. They're very grateful for that partnership. Then there's Brown Boss Babes.
Yes.
This is another media organization. Then there's Machli Bazaar, another media organization. Padam, which is a Tamil mental health organization. There's Indians in Sydney, another really large
Yes.
Facebook page as well. And then there's Draw Your Box, and recently we had Tamil Herald join us as well in supporting or raising awareness over this issue. So
I know NRI Affairs
and
did it.
RIFS too, yes.
This
But
is great. Yeah. I hope that more organizations come on board, and I'm sure they will. And I love the idea of it's not just about the money, it's about the conversations. Because, yes, I mean, one corporate donor comes in and their logo is splashed everywhere, and
yeah,
that's got its own thing. But really, the $10, $20 comes along with awareness and conversation, which is what we're having today. And I'm so glad that we did this. I'm sure that we can also do events later, whether they're online or support as NRIFS, where we can support all the other events that you do. And I wish the 100,000 to come into view very soon. But along with that, may there also be 100,000 conversations. And thank
I
you.
love that. I love the way you
Thank you
put
so
that.
much. That's lovely.
Thank you so
Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you.